today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this per tweet from Michael Benson. The Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano rematch is set to take place at 138-pound catchweight. Katie Taylor is revealed. Fight is for Taylor's undisputed WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO super lightweight world titles. On the Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul card, November 15th, just about 2 weeks away. I don't think that catchweight will affect either Katie or Amanda adversely because they're both naturally smaller fighters that moved up in weight. So making 138 shouldn't bother either of them. I do feel that the catchweight is intended to accommodate Amanda.
It's a compromise.
It's a compromise because remember, Amanda not that long ago was campaigning as a featherweight. That's 126.
And it's a compromise because Amanda wanted to fight for 12 threes and Katie still fights for 10 twos.
There's been some discussion about that. Why was Amanda's last fight for 10 twos instead of 12 threes when she said she vacated the WBC title at featherweight because they wouldn't let her fight for 12 threes?
Why?
It's because she has to acclimatize her approach for the Katie Taylor fight. And it's because if they want it to be for undisputed, for all the marbles at 140 pounds, it's gotta be for 10 twos. The WBC won't sanction 12 threes.
It's all a compromise, a middle ground for both combatants, for both teams.
So if either fighter beats either fighter, that is the singular biggest scalp in all of women's boxing. If Katie beats Amanda again, or if Amanda beats Katie.
Why?
It's because these are two of the most accomplished fighters in the sport right now. Two of the most accomplished. That's aside from beating each other. And beating each other, one beating the other, what's supposed to top that? Clarissa Shields beating Vanessa Joanniz? Is Vanessa Joanniz a parallel for Katie Taylor? The equivalent of an Amanda Serrano?
No.
Was Savannah Marshall? Was Savannah Marshall as accomplished as Katie or as accomplished as Amanda?
No.
It was a great fight. Great fight. Pure entertainment between Clarissa and Savannah Marshall. But beating Savannah Marshall is not the same thing as beating Katie Taylor. It's not the same thing as beating Amanda Serrano. It's not.
Point of contention.
Whoever wins the Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano rematch will be the number one pound-for-pound fighter on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. There's no scalp on Clarissa Shields' resume or the weights in which she campaigns that would rival the scalp of Katie Taylor or Amanda Serrano. It just wouldn't. The weights at which Clarissa campaigns,
They're barren. The talent pool is shallow.
you don't have a Katie Taylor at those weights. And Amanda Serrano, somebody like that, as well-schooled or as well-versed as those fighters. That's a big part of why Clarissa is able to so easily dominate those divisions, because there's nobody there.
People pretend that there is.
And the crux of it is, well, some periodicals might feel it necessary to rank Clarissa Shields ahead of Katie, ahead of Amanda, and a lot of other fighters for what she's done in those barren weight classes. That's not how it works around here. Those periodicals really aren't paying attention.
They just go with that cookie-cutter Wikipedia explanation that she's been undisputed however many times in however many weight classes, picking up vacant titles all the while.
I mean, is that really the same thing as Amanda Serrano potentially beating Katie Taylor at super lightweight for all the marbles, all the belts? Is that really the same thing?
No.
Is that the same thing as Katie having won all those belts from then unbeaten Chantel Cameron?
No.
Just think that requires clarification ahead of time. It needs to be said that whoever wins the Taylor versus Serrano rematch, they should be number one. They will be on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list.
I think Amanda's gonna win a fight.
Katie won the first one. She did. She won the first one by the skin of her teeth, almost got knocked out, and she's been in one or two more wars since then with Chantel Cameron.
She's 37 years old now.
For me, Katie Taylor's got the best resume in all of women's boxing. Best resume, pound for pound. You can't hold up anybody else's resume next to hers and compete. It just won't compare.
Sanchez, Bustos, Volante, Persoon 2 times.
Linardatu, Christina Linardatu at 140 pounds when she had the WBO.
The woman who gave Alicia Baumgartner her first professional loss, Katie Taylor, beat her years ago.
Natasha Jonas. She beat Natasha Jonas comprehensively, and look at everything Natasha Jonas went on to do. She beat Jessica McCaskill. Look at everything Jessica McCaskill went on to do.
Amanda Serrano in one of the most highly anticipated fights, if not the most highly anticipated fight in all of women's boxing. She beat Amanda. She beat Chantel. Won the rematch.
A resume like that comes at a price, though, doesn't it? A resume like that. Fighting fighters that are that good, that often as Katie does.
It takes a toll.
I feel like Amanda's gonna be stronger now. Stronger at super lightweight. She was already strong at featherweight. We know she was strong at 135. She almost knocked out Katie. At this weight, she'll be stronger. She's a few years younger than Katie.
And don't forget who's promoting this thing.
Netflix put forward a lot of money to bring Katie Taylor over for this rematch, but that comes at a price too. Most valuable promotions are at the helm of the promotion, not Matchroom. So if this fight turns out to be as close as the first one was, Amanda might get the consideration she didn't get before.
The consideration that some people feel Katie Taylor got in their initial meeting.
Turns out to be a close fight and a tight fight. I think Amanda gets the nod. I think Amanda gets the decision, and that's if she doesn't stop Katie.
She might.
So I am going with Amanda Serrano to win the rematch. I went with Katie Taylor ahead of the first fight. This time I'm going with Amanda, and you never know. This could turn out to be a trilogy.
I'm going to correct you a little bit. He wanted the Lomachenko fight when Lomachenko was old. He didn't want the Lomachenko fight when Lomachenko was in his prime. Remember, Lomachenko was older than him. Remember, there was also Tevin Farmer in Gervonta Davis's weight at 130 pounds. He didn't go for that one either. Let's stick to the standard here. Lomachenko got tired of being used as an opponent. You know what I mean? Because he was constantly fighting the best fighters possible. Now that he's older, he got jobbed against Haney, and he's going to say, I'm going to go back and become an opponent. That's not what I'm going to do. That's not what I worked hard for. So he's going to probably choose to exit the sport. You know what? He deserves it. He always chose to fight the best. He actually set the standard. If Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson were like Lomachenko, this fight would happen. I think Shakur Stevenson genuinely wants to fight the best fighters. I think it's Gervonta Davis that doesn't want to fight him. I think, yes, I understand it has to make business sense, but ultimately, why is it that Eastern fighters always make the fights and Western fighters somehow always find an excuse? This guy doesn't sell well, this guy's not popular, this guy's not this. Why do Eastern fighters always... No way fights the best fighters possible. All the former Soviet republics have fighters that fight the best fighters possible. Then you get to the West and you start seeing all the excuses. This guy doesn't do this guy doesn't do this. What's the problem? I don't understand. Because you get the most bang for your buck and you get the most entertainment. The history of boxing proves it, because back in the old days, even the Western fighters used to fight one another. You get the best fights possible, and boxing thrives. That's why people look to the old days, because boxing thrives. And back then, you didn't even have Eastern fighters. The Western fighters were the guys that were actually looking for the best opponents possible and being the best they could be. That's why people long for those days. That's why we're trying to bring them back here.
I have to agree with Paulie Malignaggi's sentiments here. It's easier to get an Eastern European fighter to fight in a difficult fight, in a dangerous fight, than it is to get an American to do it.
What he said about Gervonta Davis's timing, that he didn't want to fight Vasyl Lomachenko at 130, and for several years he didn't want to fight him at 135. No, he was waiting for him to get old.
It's exactly what he was doing. Everybody knows it. And that if Vasyl Lomachenko doesn't want to be used and abused anymore because he got jobbed in the Haney fight, that's exactly what happened. He got robbed. I agree with all of it. The thing is that Vasyl Lomachenko is still a reigning champion. He has the IBF title in the lightweight division. And because he has that title, he's got to decide. He's got to shit or get off the pot.
Because if he doesn't, he's holding up the division.
William Zepeda is the #1 contender across the board with all 4 sanctioning bodies, the IBF in particular. And, you know, if Vasyl Lomachenko don't get out of bed for a Davis fight, if that's not enough to get him out of bed, well, a Zepeda fight ain't gonna be no better. So what you have to wonder is, if you're not gonna fight these people, what are you doing with that belt? Give it up, let somebody else fight for it.
Let William fight for it.
William is en route to take on Tevin Farmer on Riyadh Season Latino night. And if he wins that fight, and I think he's going to, they want to move him straight into a Shakur Stevenson fight, which would be a unification match if he had the IBF title.
He doesn't have it because Loma's still got it, but Loma's said to be courting retirement, so if you're thinking about retiring, go ahead.
That's where Loma is leaving himself open for criticism. The George Cambodia fight, his last fight, that was months ago. You've had months to make a decision. All the while, you're still holding that belt. It's out of circulation. The saving grace, I suppose, is that the IBF is very Johnny on the spot with their mandatories. So even if Vasyl Lomachenko is being indecisive, he can't be indecisive forever. Sooner or later, they're going to call a mandatory. When they do, he's either forced to fight or forced to flight.
To fly.
To go away. Fade into the background. I've got nothing against Vasyl Lomachenko or the decisions he's made up until this point. But he has one more to make, and it's an important one. Are you going to stick around or not?
Gotta decide.
Now, this is a guy who's given most of his life to the sport of boxing and all of his adult life. The extended amateur campaign, 2 gold medals, 3-division champion.
In the paid ranks, a 2-time lightweight champion in the paid ranks.
I respect him, and it is unfortunate that he got robbed in that Devin Haney fight, but we can't do anything about the past.
We can't change it.
He's got a belt here and now. Champion, you're a champion. That comes with responsibilities, expectations.
You've got to meet them the same as anybody else. Sympathy or no sympathy.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Victor Conte breaks silence on serious allegations over Ryan Garcia doping scandal. And it's about time that he did, because a lot of the content creators and a lot of the podcasters have been all willy-nilly throwing his name around as the culprit behind Ryan's positive test. Each passing day adds a new chapter to the ongoing rivalry between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. After being sued by The Dream and receiving several verbal jabs, Garcia replied a few days ago he maintained innocence and wrote, "I know in my heart I never took steroids. However, it showed up in my system is a mystery." Furthermore, the 26-year-old also targeted the old relationship between Victor Conte and Devin Haney indirectly by stating the latter's camp was already aware of the test results even before VADA. He termed this situation very fishy.
There's nothing fishy about it. Devin's younger brother suspected that Ryan was doping, which isn't saying much because a year before that, Gervonta said the same thing. Gervonta said he thinks Ryan is doping.
And it turns out he was right. Nevertheless, over the past week, this claim from Ryan Garcia has taken over the internet. Conte did not stay silent and replied with a 14-year-old article interview of him where he claimed to always maintain the integrity of the sport. On Wednesday, Conte directly attacked all the critics and called out everyone sharing Ryan's point of view.
All the podcasters trying to implicate him and implicate the Haneys.
Conte wrote on X, "Seems there is a need to set the record straight about allegations being made by some boxing podcast clowns. In regards to the Ryan Garcia positive drug test result, he wanted to make it clear that he had no inside intel regarding the Victorville resident's test result and called the latter's allegations a lie." He further wrote, "I have never, at any time, received any inside information about a positive test result from VADA, but he accepted the fact that he works closely with fighters who are associated with VADA, like Devin Haney." Conte further explained that if a fighter tests positive, both sides promptly get the information and the camp's attorneys pass the information on. He then defended himself and the Haneys and called every internet theorist a clown. "There is absolutely no evidence of any wrongdoing by me or anybody on Team Haney. These boxing podcast clowns are simply spreading lies and hoping for lots of clicks and views."
That's exactly what they're doing.
And I don't say that because I think Victor is this upstanding guy, this pillar of the community. I say that because Ryan hasn't presented anything that would exonerate him of culpability.
His story changed so many times. How could you believe him? How could you take it from him?
Is Ryan Garcia's steroid accusation a desperate attempt to deflect from his own legal troubles? The Snack founder continued by challenging Ryan Garcia to provide some proof and launching a brutal attack on the 26-year-old boxer.
And I'll bet you he doesn't. Neither Ryan or his supporters or the podcasters can offer up any actual evidence.
Conte stated, "If Ryan Garcia or anybody else has any credible evidence of wrongdoing, then please come forth with it." He was clear that Garcia and everyone else should stop with these theories and come up with proof. All these baseless arguments will do nothing of the matter. The 74-year-old then proceeded to remind Garcia of all the active lawsuits he's involved in. He wrote, "Boxing is still waiting for the many lawsuits that Ryan promised. Nobody can produce any credible evidence of wrongdoing because there is none."
Exactly.
As of now, the 26-year-old is involved in at least 3 lawsuits, including the one with Devin Haney. On the other hand, Logan Paul has also filed a defamation suit against Garcia after the latter's social media post alleging that the Prime Hydration brand could harm consumers.
Did you forget about that one?
Golden Boy Promotions also had an active case against Ryan where the company alleged the 24-1 boxer violated their contract and tried to end it early, which resulted in substantial financial loss for the company.
So where's the part where Ryan starts suing people? All the conspirators and co-conspirators that supposedly set him up. Where's that part?
Because it seems to me that he's the only one that people are going after. He's the only one that's getting sued. He himself ain't doing much of anything aside from stupid TikTok videos. While we don't know about the other cases and lawsuits, we know that the Haney-Garcia saga is far from over. We can expect a reply from Garcia pretty soon, as he is not the silent type. What do you think about Victor Conte's comment?
This is all a byproduct of a sport that these days is primarily covered by boxing fans as opposed to actual journalists who might pursue the truth as it is, in the spirit of integrity.
Getting to the heart of the matter, the heart of the story, which isn't necessarily the job of a podcaster. A podcaster is free to manufacture their own truth, their own version of the story.
For clicks.
Because they're in the business of getting clicks, irrespective of whether a story is true or not, manufactured or not. They're just out for views.
If what they say can't be proven, they'll just move on to something else and upload another video about something else. They can't be held to their word.
It's not dissimilar from what we saw with the Glovegate fiasco a few years ago. A few years later, you have several podcasters making baseless accusations about Conte and the Haneys as would-be evidence that would never hold up in a court of law.
But in the court of public opinion, however,
they say might hold some weight with those who subscribe to them and their school of thought, with no regard for what their true motivations are. And their true motivation is to siphon followers off of Ryan because he's popular on the internet. That's all it really is. That's why they're defending him.
they're parasites.
What you're seeing now is what happens when you have parasites covering the sport of boxing.
It's not about being a fan of Bill or Devin or thinking that Victor is this upstanding citizen that he would never.
It's not about any of that. It's about Ryan being able to explain himself and offer up some proof that if you're not doping, prove it. Because right now, you look just as guilty as anybody else. Everybody's got a lofty explanation whenever this happens. Are we supposed to believe all of them too when they say they're innocent?
Why should we believe you? What makes you the exception?
Trust me, bro.
All of a sudden, these podcasters are up in arms that Victor Conte has any hand in boxing when he's had a hand in boxing for years, many, many years now. You're just deciding to take notice of it when it's convenient.
As a deflection.
Oh, Victor and Haney set up Ryan. They tainted his samples or they tainted his supplements ahead of a fight that Devin was favored to win. Why?
Or did you forget that he was the overwhelming favorite going in? Why would he have to set up Ryan?